saintly Vaishnavas. Although I am very fallen and misbehaved, I nevertheless place this appeal before you. My destiny has immersed me in this fearsome ocean of repeated birth and death. Please grab me by the hair and pull me to the opposite shore. My destiny is very powerful. I'm not able to hear the knowledge of spiritual life, and I'm always bound by the ropes of karma. I cannot see any way to escape my condition, and I see only suffering. Helpless and stricken with grief, I cry. I'm just like a blind man, unable to see what path is auspicious or inauspicious, and I am helplessly dragged from here to there by lust, anger, greed, bewilderment, madness, and pride. My mind became immersed in the impermanent satisfaction of the senses, and I could not understand the real goal of life. For this reason, I did not aspire to attain your lotus feet. Narottam Das says, now that I am able to see and hear the Vaishnavas, I have become free from all fear.
How is everyone? Good?
I'm super tired. Harihe Prapanche Poriya.
Okay.
184. Bhagati Haya Na Dekhi Upayo Ar Prapanche Poriya Bhagati Haya
Na dekhi upayo
Charane Shara Maya Karinu Sa Karma Geya Kichu Nahi Mara Sadhana Bhajana Na
Having fallen into the illusion of this world, thus rendered helpless, I see no other means of deliverance but you. Since you are the only recourse for the helpless, I accept the shelter of your lotus feet as most essential.
I have no background in pious activities, nor any knowledge. nor any regulated devotional practice. But you are full of compassion and kindness. Therefore I, being indeed destitute, solicit your causeless mercy.
The powerful urges of speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals have banded together to cast me adrift on the sea of this material world, thus causing me grievous trouble.
After numerous endeavors to subdue these material demands, I have completely given up all hope. O Lord of the destitute, I call upon your holy name, for now you are within
That's a Sharanagati song.
It reminds me of that Shimunacharya verse that I've been kind of focusing on. Where he goes, I mean, really, the Lord of the destitute.
Oh, hello, good friend. Spider, I'm like, oh, on arm. Sorry.
Do you want to?
Ananya, do you want to bring a cup in here? I got a little spider on my pamphlet here. Haribol!
I'll get it.
Little homie G.
Can I sing 139, or were we still talking about that? All right, babe, can you put him outside?
That's a little suspicious looking. I think it's a grass spider. Might be a hobo. It's a little baby guy. Just toss him in the garden.
He's gonna aim on their Sharanagati out there with the other
Oh my God.
139?
That's interesting. So that last song was Bhajan Lalasa. This is Siddhi Lalasa.
Oh.
Ave Gauravane Shura Dhuni Tate.
Radhe Krishna Bole.
Radhe Krishna Bole. Abhiya Bena Bole Ho Sukachari. Kanaya Tataru Tale.
What does Lalasa mean?
I'm not sure.
Lalasa. Siddhi Lalasa. Oh, when will this soul chant in Gora forest on the Ganges bank the holy names Radha and Krishna, renouncing all the body's joys, and drenched with the tears that I've wept, amidst the herbs beneath a tree.
Means ambition.
Ah, like Lilium, isn't it? No. Okay. When at some outcast's home shall I give up all thoughts of caste and beg to share with him humble prasadam and drink the water of the Saraswati. Along the banks, my voice choked with my ecstasy, I'll chant Krishna in great delight. This is reminding me of when we would be in Navadvip with Gurudev, you know, and going to the Ganga and crossing the Ganga. And when will I bow down before a resident of the holy Dham and beg from him a drop of mercy? When, oh when, will I smear my body with dust from a Vaishnava's holy feet and wear the mendicant cloth? Then I shall see no difference between the forest of Goda and Raja, and I will be transformed into a resident of the Dham. The true nature of the Lord's abode will manifest itself to my eyes, and I will become a maid servant of Srimati Radharani. Jai.
Jai.
Jai, Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Prabhu, maybe we can get the centenary anthology.
Okay.
Excuse me.
May I ask a question before we read the centenary anthology? It's related to Kirtan 184 that we chanted. Let me just pull it out real quick.
Prapanche Poriya. Harihe Prapanche Poriya.
Yeah. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is expressing that he has no hope in controlling or pacifying these urges of speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals. Then you mentioned that it's a Sharanagati song. And it's crazy because yesterday, Bhima Krishna Prabhu sent me a page of the Shushi Prabhupada Jivanamrita. I forgot. But basically saying that the Lord, for those who already are kind of like, they know that their material activities are bringing him suffering, he knows. Yet he's not able to like do something about it.
Yes.
The mercy bestows mercy upon it. So my question will be, should we stop trying to kind of like control these urges and considering the pacifying these urges victory? Jai Mahaprabhu. What would be our goal if these
What a
urges
tricky question from
cannot
you,
be
Hari.
controlled?
No, I think it's an important question.
It is.
Because it leads us to the proper place. And the proper place ultimately is this place where Bhaktivinoda Thakur has laid out in this song, which is ultimately we have to come to a place where we are actually submitting ourselves to the Lord. We have to come to a place not just of John, not just of theoretical understanding of our position in relation to Him, but real connection to the truth, which is that without His sanction, we're unable to do anything. That is the truth. And He may grant us some free will, but really we should come to a place where He is our only hope. That is Sharanagati. That there is only one hope, which is the mercy of the Lord, the grace of the And everything that we do is to hopefully, you can say, attract that grace. Attract that grace. Actually, all these things of negation and don't control this, don't control that, do this, don't do that, all these rules which are helpful to us in a certain stage, ultimately they don't have taste outside of connection to the Lord. They don't have a lasting taste. What everything is moving toward is a real, honest prayer inside of ourselves. And an honest prayer means there's not all kinds of tricks and games. Like some religions, they have, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but it's not necessarily talking bad. Like if you read the Talmud and the Torah, there's like literally hundreds and thousands of rules. And there's some absolutely hilarious things that people do where the rule says this and then you do all these little things to get around it, but you're really still technically doing it, and it's like supposedly some type of obedience to God, but really it just becomes a cultural lifestyle, and it's riddled with this complete absurdity that you're somehow tricking God by still doing a rule but not really doing it, all that kind of thing. You see it in these religious societies. All these rules end up becoming empty because this is lacking. I'm doing this rule, please be graceful to me. May it please you, right? That has to be the current that's going through everything. And a really honest conversation between you and the Lord. Sometimes you hear 2 or 3 rules and then you feel like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing it good, I'm doing well. But in another more exposed and honest and vulnerable state, you say, actually, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm trying this and I'm trying that, and maybe I'm doing this rule, or maybe I'm showing everyone I'm doing the rule, but I'm really breaking it whenever I'm private. You know what I mean? All these hypocrisies that live inside of ourselves. And to finally cast that eye upon yourself and say, oh my God, I am such a hypocrite, and I'm doing all these things where really I'm not capable of it, and I'm all twisted and incoherent. To really just say, my Lord, I just want to be your servant, and I call upon you for your mercy. That's real. That's real. But it takes a broken heart, an actual vulnerable heart, to make a real prayer like that. So, that type of real interaction is what we're seeking. A real expression of Sharanagati. Now ours might be slightly different. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's showing us his own expression. But it's going to have some type of feeling like that, of your own powerlessness and of dependence upon the Lord. Because we've been engaging in a ridiculous fallacy for many lifetimes, which is I'm going to live without God. But actually God is the heart of our heart. So we're turning to that reality, that truth, in a real way. And so it's this mysterious thing that there is no, Srila Rupa Goswami himself says, Tatra loyam apimulyam ekalam janmakoti sukritayam nalabhyate. Janmakoti means thousands of births. Sukriti means perfect auspicious activity. auspicious activity. Sukriti, su means auspicious. Nala Bhike, who won't give this to you? Tatra lolyam api mulyam mekalam. There's one mulya, there's one pillar, there's one real thing. And that is lolyam, actual desire within your heart, actual expression of your desperate heart. That's the one qualification. That's the mulya, the one qualification. Rupa Goswami says, Tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam. Ekalam means one. There's one qualification. You have a desperate heart. And a desperate heart sometimes comes when we're cracked and broken a little bit. We can maybe make a real prayer. That's not has some agenda or some ego or some, junk. So, we're really gifted actually. We can read this prayers from Bhakti Thakur, because then also we are freed from the idea that the only time I can pray to the Lord is when I'm in some state of what I consider to be my perfection. When I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing it, I'm so good at this. I'm so good at it, blah, blah, blah. Now I can pray to God. I know, you can pray to God at any time. And the best time is when you're in your most broken and desperate state. So, I hope that's helpful.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing what you're saying, and it's really, I feel very, very mysterious, because like what you were saying, sort of like you have to, you want to approach the Lord when we're doing really good, or see, look, I'm good now, and I can, like that, because we don't really trust Him. We don't really actually know what mercy is. I mean, this is my own feeling about my own practice and experience, that there's this doubt about mercy. We don't really know what it is. We think that it has something to do with qualification. For mercy and qualification, they don't go in the same sentence. The qualification for receiving mercy is realizing of one's lack of qualification. And so, that takes some experience that such a thing exists, and that the Lord's quality is so, so sweet. It's so sweet when you think of Mahaprabhu and Srimati Radharani's glorious, noble, self-giving, heart-melting quality. And who is she worshipping? What quality does he have? And who is he worshipping? What quality does she have? And then Mahaprabhu is coming there. So their qualities are so sweet, are so kind, so merciful, so giving, so lovely. And so, we're coming into some proximity of something that we really don't know anything about in this world. And through surrender, we can get some experience about that, and also hearing about the devotees' prayers.
Hey Tesh, how you doing? Good, how are you? So, Tesh, this is Srila.
What is your name?
Tej.
Tej. Oh yes, you mentioned.
This is Srila.
Nice to see you.
This is Sudarshan. And this is Radhikishori.
Nice to meet you.
Tesh came when you guys were in Thailand, and he helped us with his energy sacrifice doing service. And he was very helpful for the festivals. So.
And with our quiet crew.
That was good. I like that.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Great to meet you. I apologize for the dress. We're just coming straight out of work, so.
Just one last thing
Yeah.
while we're finishing here.
Yeah.
The amazing thing of Sharanagati is that it opens the scale
of what can be gone through is like unlimited. It's the thing that actually allows you to go through every circumstance. That's the problem with all of the different kind of prisons and strictures and rules when the spirit of them has been lost. But the spirit of the thing is Sharanagati, then you can go through any circumstance, and there's a sincere prayer that can occur, which means ultimately that reciprocation can occur anywhere. That's like the gift of Sharanagati, right? That it can pierce through any type of layer, any situation, right? The prerequisite is that heartfelt movement, that heartfelt internal movement, which is the thing that we've been searching for all along, right? So the spectrum of what it opens in possibility is so glorious. That's why you can say Sharanagati is supreme. So that's also like the great hopeful message of Sharanagati.
John.
It's great to meet you.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little about your background and like how familiar you are with like the yoga? And
I'm somewhat familiar with Bhakti Yoga in different formats. Let's see.
Here's some microphone.
So I practice some of my own kirtan at home. I play the harmonium. Kind of been practicing that for about 6 months, just learning how to do it. I do a lot of yoga, just general yoga, Kundalini yoga. I'm actually in teacher training for Kundalini yoga.
Cool.
I'm from Utah, but I moved to Alaska for a long time too, so I've been kind of in both places.
That's kind of amazing.
Kind of yogi-ish.
Kind of hippie-ish. Yeah, something like that. I live in Lehigh. I have 4 kids. They kind of range from 12, 16, 18, and 21.
Okay.
So kind of getting bigger.
Yeah.
It's a little bit about me.
Amazing.
How about you?
Great to meet you. Well, that's my mother. Raised in some proximity to Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness. You know, I guess I'm in my mid-50s now, so I got kids that are 20s and 17. 15. Well, I got a 15-year-old at the football game right now. But yeah, you know, trying to practice. I was initiated by Srila Maharaj when I was 19 years old. So spent a bunch of time in India, in ashrams in my 20s, and kind of never been to Utah until I was in my late 20s, and I came here after all my visas ran out of Bear Alice, and never left. So we have this little humble place here where we kind of meditate on the finer ideas of love and dedication, organizing that posture consciously toward the waves of reality.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Thank you. And what was your name again? Sorry.
Sudarshan.
Sudarshan.
Yeah. I won't be mad if you forget anything. I forget like Bob. Okay, well, on Friday nights we generally try and dive into something a little bit deeper. It's a tough night for a lot of times people to make it, so but we always have a crew of diehards and try and think about something and refine the ideal, I suppose. Okay, so we're reading from a book that was put together in India called Centenary Anthology. But these are talks by Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who was in, I guess in these final years, he was in West Bengal, kind of on the north of Calcutta, up toward the northern part of Bengal, by the Ganga, is where the ashram is. And just, in the early 80s, a bunch of people came and started to ask him questions. Of course, he had been living quite a solitary life at that point. And from those questions in book after book after book of him just speaking. And truly remarkable, wonderful, wonderful insights into spiritual life. So, this chapter is called Unadulterated Purity. Question, Maharaj, what is the meaning of chastity for the proper disciple? Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Chastity is faithfulness to the cause for which we have come.
I love that definition. Yeah.
It is a relative term. Chastity in the absolute sense is unchangeable adherence to Krishna consciousness. There also may be relative chastity, such as when someone sincerely pursues his interest in a particular plane. However, that type of sincerity is not complete. We think sincerity is only complete when one comes to accept Krishna consciousness of Godhead. Other forms of chastity are all relative. No knowledge separate from Krishna consciousness is chaste. In Krishna consciousness also, we may not think that by getting the touch of Krishna consciousness, we have acquired the whole thing. When we get the pure conception of Krishna consciousness, the hazy conceptions will vanish. There are also different stages of realization in pure Krishna consciousness. And by its degree of awakening, we become more and more chaste. Chastity means our adherence to the truth. The truth that we have come to realize. That truth is in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not a limited thing that one can capture in his hand and swallow. It is of infinite character. There is gradation and there is room for progress in Krishna consciousness. We will say that one is chaste due to his own sincere progress, not due to adherence to the figure or the formal conception.
Can you read that again, sir?
We will say that one is chaste due to his own sincere progress, not due to adherence to the figure, the formal conception. Wow. He just said
That is so condensed, by the way.
He just said a lot.
Can you go back to the sentence where it says there's gradation and then there is, Krishna consciousness is, okay.
So chastity means our adherence to the truth.
Yeah.
The truth that we have come to realize, that truth is in Krishna consciousness. So whatever conception of actual truth that we have grown to realize, that is within the total infinite, which is Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not a limited thing that one can capture in his hand and swallow. It is of infinite character.
It reminds me of that sentence, like the Krishna that you're looking for is not the Krishna of your mind.
Yeah.
Especially as a yogi teacher or in teacher training, it's such a nice meditation because this idea of actually that the source is infinite means that whatever the infinite is not something that is restricted in like that poet Shelley, which our teacher liked to quote a lot. He says, "We all live inside of our skull-sized kingdoms." Right? So the truth that you're looking for isn't like a phantasm of your imagination that you interact with, but it's actually the truth. Like it is what is. It's what exists. It's right. It's eternal and it's blissful and it's full of truth, right? You're saying like Satchidananda, there's like it's consciousness, it's eternal and it's blissful. And so it's this idea that you're not gonna get spiritual life as like another tick box of your day and your life to like, exploit ultimately. That's what it means to swallow it, right? It's the thing that I consume for my own games, right? So the things that we eat are the things that we're consuming. So we're acquiring and controlling and consuming them, which is like kind of a misaligned relationship with reality. So it's like, can you imagine how condensed this is though? He's saying, Krishna consciousness is not something you can throw in your hand. It's infinite. And then within infinity, there's still a spectrum that's going on. And you yourself can swim into movement in that gradation, right? Which means that there is a progressive, right? Which is ultimately what all souls are like. We're looking for motion, right? Novelty, excitement, connection, and deeper levels, right? We're not here for like a flat kind of thing, right? Which means gradation means that there's transformation that's occurring, right? And what could be more exciting, right? If anything in this world is mildly interesting, then the source of it also has to be even more interesting. And then that means that there's also lots of new realizations that can come that are each one of them joyous in their own way. So it means that there's movement. Instead, not like spiritual life is like, another day with the infinite. You know, that's like, but that's in like what, 3-4 sentences.
Yeah, and it's interesting that word chastity, you know, what you generally think in terms of loyalty and purity, he's saying chastity is actually your own loyalty to the real pursuit of truth. And then he contrasts that with a figurative or formal conception, which means something that can be captured in forms. And he's saying your real chastity is that you're making real progress toward real truth. Not that you have ingrained or bound yourself in something formal.
Amazing.
Which is amazing.
I like that, kind of what you were saying a little bit. Like, if it was just a pill or something you put in your mouth, there's a limit to that. And it does something, and you know what it does, and it's just kind of like a daily thing. It's just prescribed, right? Whereas, I think one of the things with the infinite is when you try to capture it or put a box on it, then it's gone. It's something else. And it will always continue to grow into something new. It's never something you can grasp and understand fully, but you can explore and kind of witness.
Yeah.
And to approach the epitome, or to approach the essence of the infinite, is done because the infinite is a person. He's the supreme person. So this is all done in a mood of surrender and devotion. Then there is reciprocation. Then there is development. Then there is proceeding. Because it's not like, I'm going to do this groovy thing and I'm going to do this thing that has this look and this form, and then I'm going to, get a new experience of something. That's material. That's something like that we can put, conceive of, that I'm going to make, get this other thing. But this is all dispensation. On the plane of divine life, there's dispensation, means reciprocation. That's a very, very different mood and experience.
Vyaso veti na veti va. Such a strong expression is also there. Vyaso veti na veti va. So Vyasa is said to be the writer of the Vedas. And this expression is Vyaso veti na veti va, means Vyasa may know or he may not know. And it's this idea that something can channel through him and come out in such a way that he may not know what he's even like he may not fully understand what he himself is writing. All rights reserved. Krishna consciousness is unlimited. Still, there is possibility of conceiving its purity in its unadulterated form, and the acharyas are giving that to us. In the beginning, a new student who gains admission to a college cannot expect to know anything and everything. We need to have systematic, properly adjusted knowledge. There are many amongst our group who heard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada's advices and words. So that's a long title, but it's who's on the right there is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But only partly. So there are many in our group who heard his advices and words, but only partly. One day a senior man and sannyasi repeated something Srila Prabhupada had said. Although it related to a particular time and place, he wanted to utilize that in a universal way. I gave some objection. Maharaja, Srila Prabhupada told this, it is true, that this is not the whole thing. He explained other things also, and therefore we have to harmonize. We cannot ignore the other part of his advice. We have to come into adjustment and systematic understanding of the words of Guru. The partial aspect may sometimes lay stress on a particular point, and who has attentively caught that, he may only take that and nothing beyond. But systematic knowledge of the whole must be understood. In a progressive life, the plane where one devotee may want to withdraw from that is a good point. In a progressive life, the plane where one devotee may want to withdraw from to make further progress may be the goal of attainment for another devotee. The object of attainment for the Kanishta Adhikari, a Madhyama Adhikari, may withdraw from in his attempt to climb higher, as in ascending a staircase step by step. That's a really intense point.
You often quote this, actually.
Yeah. Guru Maharaj is saying here that we're in a system of progression and of gaining deeper and deeper realized knowledge that's applicable universally as we continue our spiritual life. And as we continue, we may leave behind something that another person who's at another stage of spiritual life is reaching for. And that's one of the most disturbing things about spiritual life that's in association with a lot of people, especially for people who are not familiar with that progression. One of the wonderful things that I heard Guru Maharaj saying is the example of swimming, where in swimming you're reaching out and pulling some water, but ultimately that water is pushed behind you, and then you're reaching out for more and then pushing it behind you. But the fact that you're taking that water, oh, it's helping, it's helping, it's helping, you know what? Now I need to leave it. Doesn't mean it's not helpful to someone else. That same water can then be used by someone else. That same idea, that same conception, someone may be reaching for it. And it's very disturbing for the person reaching to that conception to see someone else leave that behind. Because everyone just wants to know the way.
You want to know what it is.
They want some finite and absolutely certain set of things. Do that and you got it. Right? The ego craves certainty and control. And so generally the prescription for someone beginning spiritual life is very, very authoritative and defined. Because that's what the materialistic ego can handle. And that's generally where a beginning person is at. They want something very authoritative and defined. But those who actually are progressing in the state, they're going to start moving into some very, very personal and dynamic relationship with life. And that may be disturbing to the person who's coming in and finally is grabbing a hold of this authoritative, defined structure. This is a super fine point. But it's important to grasp these points that, it is a progressive thing. And someone may be leaving behind a step that we're, aspiring for.
Yeah, it's quite tricky.
I think
when you have a temple, you want to accommodate everything. Everyone, there's accommodation. Just like in a college or school. Everything is accommodated, but what was learned in one level of class, I always think of when you're little, you go, you're brought to the street, and there's very defined ways that you can cross the street.
Yeah.
You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and you have to take someone's hand, and you have to go. But an older kid, he can take in a lot more of the scene. He's trained, and he can go without that. So that, but there's no contempt for that stage where that is necessary, and that all has to be encouraged. So that's it. When we have this type of lecture by Guru Maharaj and many other evidences like that, then that's a possibility to bring that harmony in there. But it isn't so easy. And generally, when, like the Acharya, he is acting on a stage of practicing that he's far beyond, or he never needed it in the first place because he's a descending person. But he's still showing and showing respect for that also. So that's a kind of interesting harmonization of this type of practicing phenomenon in a group.
I think it would be interesting to think about like someone coming in new, like you said, needs a structure and define the rules and boundaries for it all. And then they see someone else that's been in it for a while, and they're like, wow, that's interesting. They're different, and they're handling things different. But they're leaving something behind me, and now I'm just like having to deal with what they already kind of have grown. But that person that's already been in it for a while has also the people ahead of them. Right. And I think what's interesting is perhaps as you go a little bit further, you may be more open to learning and not so rule driven. And so maybe there's less, frustration or less rules or less things, and maybe you have a little bit more growth that kind of adds up, that you kind of like let it start to snowball, right?
And then there is a movement into relationship with God, because in the end you understand that reality. I mean, God is essentially infinity personified, right? So that means that accommodates everything, and then your life itself becomes a very spiritual practice. Where in the beginning you're kind of leaving that life. You kind of leave that life behind and say, okay, I got to focus here. But then there's this sort of return to like the whole, where you're starting to see the Lord behind everything. And what one person may have to leave and say, okay, I can't deal with this right now, and I got to focus on my practice. Another person is going into that thing and going, this is my practice. And it's an intense thing, and it's school's a really good example, because you can start to learn the basics of physics in high school or something, and it's particle physics, and it's like this is how it works, and blah blah blah. And there's forces and there's energies, and and this is how the world works. Then you get into college, you start getting into quantum physics, and you're just like, there's no matter at all. Everything's just vibrational, and consciousness of everything is like, what?
I think it's a Buckminster Fuller quote. He says, the higher you go in math, there's not even an intimation of a solid.
There's not even one.
An intimation of a solid.
Of a solid.
Right? So like in the beginning, you have like this thing plus this thing equals this thing, and it's like unequivocal, and it happens every time you do it. And then you move up, and there's not even the intimation of a solid, right? I mean, like, ultimately, I think what you can't skirt around is there's a radical responsibility associated with spiritual life, right? And what that means is, right, like that kind of quote Goswami Maharaj likes to quote all the time, if I do not deceive me, then no one can deceive me. So there's a very, and what does that mean? That I'm engaging in deceiving myself to some extent. There's different variances, there's different percentages, but not everything's completely coherent in our world, right? We want to have thought, word, and deed all coherently moving in a certain direction, right? That's like to move into consonance, right? And then this idea that there's different levels that you're exposed to, right, in different ways. And, and what is like the cautionary tale is, you don't know what's the internal world of that person, right? And like what the Vedas and scriptures are saying many times is that person may have devotion in his heart. And so you have to be very cautious, right? Before you, like, from a very small perspective and slice of their life are casting like a kind of, like dispersion, so to speak, on whatever it is, whether they're leaving something behind or accepting something that you think is too strict or whatever it is, right? You can go both directions. And so there's this cautionary tale of being radically responsible in your own spiritual life and observing, but with an idea. I mean, like this sentence of Guru Maharaj, humility means being situated within infinite possibility, means we're reserving a section of the mental system to go, yeah, I don't know all the variables that are going on here, right? That's why spiritual life isn't something that's just empirical, right? It's not measured on the outside as like this marching towards like putting God in your hand and swallowing him, right? But it's some blooming of something interior that's very intrinsic to the nature of who you really are. And how could the nature of who you really are be this thing that's just like, oh, they didn't do it right, right? Like it has to be that some of these things you hear in the scriptures, like very saintly people, and this is kind of unequivocal across all faiths, very saintly people are feeling very compassionate. Their nature, their hearts are becoming softer.
Instead of judging, right?
Right, exactly, right? Because there may be devotion in that person's heart. Right, and so it's something very, like, you're called towards something, right? A very nice picture in Bhagavad Gita of, like, the trees, the plant, the animals, and there's, like this soul, right? So there's 3 aspects of divinity that are given in the East, you would say. There's Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahman is, like, the bigger than the biggest, the effulgence, the totality of everything. The Lord is suffusing every last smallest measurement of reality, right? And so that's the oneness, you could say. And Paramatma is to the smallest measurement in reality, that indwelling witness. That's the Lord who is pervading all cells of reality as the witness. So they say inside of every soul, indwelling in each being, tree, plant, animal, rock, there's the super soul. And maintaining, right? And many practices from the East are actually to have a little the Atma Gyan is, Atma is who you are, Gyan means knowledge. So they're saying like one tiny bit of knowledge on who you are can be like a Copernican revolution for your own life. What to speak of some revelation on what the nature of Paramatma is, right? Paramatma is the indwelling witness. And then, Narada Muni is speaking of he's always smiling on you compassionately, the indwelling witness who is in your own heart. Right? So Brahman, bigger than the biggest, Paramatma, smaller than the smallest, and then Bhagavan means the Supreme Lord who reveals himself looking human-like with a personality, right? In like human-like form. So you can say that's the avatar aspect of the Lord, right? And so like, funnily enough, in the West, bigger than the biggest, no problem. Smaller than the smallest, no problem. And then you talk about avatar, and it's just like, ugh. But the funny thing is that restriction on that God can have a human-like expression. The restriction comes from our brain, not necessarily from the infinite. We have like all those like rules of what like the infinite can do or not do actually are all these strange things from our perception. But then you're going, oh, this idea that the saints are compassionate. And so then you're called as a spiritualist to try and reserve some of that never-ending dislike, algorithm that's going on, and search into your own internal world to actually connect with what's occurring. And there's some actual relief there, right? And then you can wish well on everyone, whatever part of the journey that they're on, instead of that sort of hellish kind of calculation that's going on. And it just kind of came to mind because it is really intense, and humans do compare themselves all day, and we're not exempt from that. But if you can place something kind of higher, and then you also feel some warmth for every person that you're coming into contact with. Like sometimes you see them and they complain nonstop. I mean, really. And you think, oh, that's hard to be in that space. Yeah. It's just really hard. I wish you the very best.
When you can clear your own distortion, then you can see the distortion in others and have more empathy, probably.
Yeah. There's a feeling of wishing people well instead of being like, wow, what a negatronic,
Okay, under the guidance of one guru, there are so many different sections of disciples. All students may not be equal in their realization. One can understand to a certain extent, Another can understand something more. And another can understand even more. In this way, there may be gradation. Even the senior disciples may fall back and the juniors may go up. That is also possible. We have seen, and you can also see now. Many of the older ones have gone away, and the newcomers are showing greater energy. You may find that amongst yourselves as we found amongst ourselves. Speaking to that devotee. There are no stereotyped rules.
Wow.
It is a living thing.
Wow.
Krishna is there. He says that he has not finished himself in his own shastras. What I have given in the shastra, you must do that. But one who crosses that to come to me is my higher servitor.
Wow.
So Krishna is living, and he is above all. A transaction, a trade, may be made by cash or by loan. Whether trading or purchasing with cash or purchasing with a loan, he is there. He is master, he is autocrat. His dealings should not be limited, even by scripture.
It's an interesting, just a small point, that because this point it has been, I've seen many times, been misunderstood, that we are to give up all kinds of things which are really actually favorable in our stage.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do that immaturely, you will tend to go down. But when you have come to another stage, another level of faith, or another level of Sharanagati, within the really subjective core of of an honest heart, then naturally those other things aren't become too formal. But sometimes people will go, oh, the rules where Krishna says give up the blah, 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 and then you don't give up a thing for a lower thing. You give it always up for a higher thing. So that principle is there.
Yeah, that's that verse, because Gomer quotes that verse a lot. Chapter 3, I think it is, Shreya Swadharma Viguna or something like that. But it's basically, this, actually I think it gets talked about later in this chapter somewhere. But there's a balance to sticking to your position strongly, which takes fortitude. Sometimes if you have a sadhana or a practice, to stick to it, you gotta stick to it. Sometimes it's a challenge. And then to leave that, to make progress, that's a really tough navigation. And it requires sincerity. Okay, he says, even crossing the scriptures, I exist, even though those directions are given by me. Agai jaiva gunan doshan maya dishtan apidvakan dharman samtyajaya sarvan mam vajetsa chasattamaha. So directions are of different classes. And Krishna says, sometimes it will be necessary to show devotion to me, even crossing my own laws. We must also consider the realizations of higher devotees. So many things are there, but the main thing is faithfulness. To die, to live. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty simplicity means to be independent of ancient prejudices, to be empty, to be unpossessed of the malpossession, to be clear, to be free of foreign possession. That is simplicity. Formal and substantial. They are two different things. And here is the main difficulty in our progress. Oh, this is the section I was thinking of. Jaya. Formal and substantial, they are two different things, and here is the main difficulty in our progress. Shreyasvadharme. Progress means to deal with these two difficulties.
That's actually a really cool definition of progress, by the way.
Progress, I mean, that's the most amazing
Say again
definition.
what the two difficulties are.
Formality and substantiality.
Substantiality. Right.
There's an actual real thing under the formal thing.
This is such a
But
cool definition.
To carefully be able to define
That
what
tension.
is what. What is formal and what is substantial. And sometimes leaving one set of formalities is the substantial move.
And that's so gradual because even subtly, we may not recognize that something is not actually substantial, but a formal conception.
Right.
That, these things are very subtle.
He kind of goes through all of that back and forth in this paragraph, I believe, because
Yeah.
I remember reading this, and this whole thing is really helpful to have a living life.
Mhm.
Progress means to deal with these two difficulties, to stick to one's formal position, and beyond that, to make progress, to advance. If advancement is not sure, it is judicious to stick to the former position.
Very important point.
If there is any doubt of progress, one should stick to the formal position. But that is not progress. See, sticking to the formal position, that's not progress. What it is the lack of going backward.
It's like in the war when the the enemy's coming at you, you go hold, right? And it's like there's this oncoming onslaught. That doesn't mean you won the war. It just means you didn't lose.
You didn't go back.
You didn't lose your position. But making progress ultimately means that there is some sacrifice, forward motion, risk, uncertainty, and of course, deep, pure things underneath. But it's very interesting because sometimes people are like, oh, why does progress have to be so hard? And it's because the nature of progress is that you're something else by the end of it. That's why. And you shouldn't think necessarily that progress is always and you know what? When the wave comes softly, great. It's not that every progress is made in the midst of deepest, darkest turmoil valley. Yeah. However, at the same time, you don't want to assume that all of the mists of progress just cleared away and the truth was shining brightly. The nature of progress is that there is a tension that's going on here, and then there's a movement that has to happen. That's such an amazing definition of progress.
You have to let stuff go. You're losing stuff. It hurts to do that.
I mean, where he says die to live,
Yeah, die.
which it's a whole sentence of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and what he's talking about is not the physical body, but it's the ego needs to die.
Right, there's going to be some person that you were that's dead.
Yeah, that you're letting go.
That you're,
You see him behind you, you're like, oh.
I mean, the thing that comes to me often is okay, we know we have little shadow creatures that they're obvious, that thing needs to die in order for me to make progress. But what can be quite shocking is the thing that we may even value about ourselves. That too may need to go through a little bit of a grinder and be reassessed. And it can be you feel sometimes maybe you're actually dying, and it's not you who's dying, but it's that thing that ultimately in the bigger picture. And then maybe when it's gone, you even chuckle at yourself, silly and superficial and negligible, but in that moment it made it felt like, you know, Herculean and Sisyphean or whatever, you know, like just this like unreal. But that's really, you know, what an amazing ethos.
Okay.
You know.
So if there's any doubt of progress, one should stick to the former position. But that is not progress. Progress means to leave the former position and go ahead.
Dang.
Only one who has hope of his bright future should leave his former position and go to advance.
Beautiful.
Those who are of doubtful mentality, suspicious mentality, it is better for them to stick to their former position where they already have a consolidated foundation. They should take their stand there. According to his own progress, he cannot but see that some things must be read, and some new things in front must be invited to come near. Progress means this.
Wow.
So
Sweet.
There's like that trust, right? And that develops, that, you know, and, well, that experience of substantiality through surrender, then there's some progress can be made because you can see something that you're going toward. But if you can't see it, then you have to stay where you are.
Yeah, because you could be going in the wrong direction.
Right.
Right? You think it's like you're trusting something, but maybe it's an illusion still. And you're still following it. Well, it's better if you're not sure or doubtful. It's
There's
probably
this
better
other
stay-
verse in Gita that says, Krishna says, what's the Sanskrit? The who has sincere nahi kalyana kritasya durgatim tata gacchati. Says who has real good intention, durgatim tata gacchati. He cannot go to a bad place. So really it's about the sincerity. The sincerity of the desire, the fidelity of that pure purpose. And if you have that, Krishna gives that kind of like beautiful assurance. Nahi kalyana krit. Who is a kalyana krit? Who wants to do real good. Then that's the way forward.
It's interesting, can I just make a very short point, because I know we want to keep reading, but sometimes when I would hear something like this, I would think, do I want to do good? You know, is there sincerity? But then we know that we can also pray for sincerity.
Yeah.
There's never a hopeless situation. That maybe I'm doubting my own sincerity for sure. But that can be a prayer also. The Lord can bestow even sincerity.
Well, and ultimately there's something relational that's happening. You're entering into a relationship. That's bhava. And that's what I find so wonderful about Krishna consciousness, Because there's an idea of Brahman, and a lot of spiritual paths are leading toward Brahman, which is sort of like the abandoned, you're leaving behind the negative aspects of reality, right? You're leaving behind duality and moving into this oneness of everything. But that leaves out relationship, sort of merging.
It's primary.
And fundamentally, Bhagavan is relationship. Rasaraj means the king of taste and feeling. We're actually craving diverse feeling, and not just any diverse feeling, the zenith of diverse feeling. And you're craving relationship, love, in the end. And so that, that relationship occurs, and that is what gives you the courage to move forward. And it's a natural thing in the end. It's not like progression is unnatural. It's natural because you're moving toward love.
one of the things we talked about in our Kundalini is that you have oneness, right? Everything is one and everything's together. But at the same time, you have to have polarity within the world in order for it to actually be, in order for it to be interesting and captivating and moving forward and meaningful. There has to be polarity. So the feminine and masculine energies have to be intertwined, and that's it's purposeful for that to happen in order for everything to be what it is. Something similar.
And I mean that's the Krishna conception, is Radha and Krishna. You know, you hear the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. You know, that actually infinity has personality. And we are, you can say, individuated points of consciousness of the total consciousness. But that is still a particular potency. That's Jiva. Jiva Shakti, it's called. And that's us. That's a soul, right? The individual soul. And we have free will. We have individuation because that is what makes everything interesting, right? In fact, it really means that love is not possible without relationship. And we're meant to love the infinite. And we have this desiring capacity inside of us that people find, some very intelligent people like Buddha have it analyzed and go, man, you know what the real thing that's holding us in here is? Desire. Desire is what's causing all these problems. And it's true. When the desires run out into like exploitation and this sort of self-centered, egotistic mania to like acquire, control, and consume the whole world, yeah, that is the cause of all your problems. But desire is also natural to you. You do desire. And that is coming from the Lord. That's coming from Radha and Krishna, because you're meant to be a part of that. So it's like, we always say these things like, you're trying to fill an infinite hole, but the only thing that's going to fill that hole is the infinite. And so you have to move into relationship with the infinite. And that's where that actual gratification of that infinite desire that is fundamentally a part of you is. And it's not to say, just stop desire. It's like fundamentally a part of your consciousness.
But then so there's the divine feminine and masculine, which is completely, inconceivably pure, glorious wonder. It makes religion look nasty. It's so high, so pure. But this is reflected in the world. It is not that feminine and masculine, which is misconceived due to misperception of who we are. I think I'm a man, I think I'm a woman, and all that. This is not what's being referred to there, because we're worshipers of that. That is a very high principle. And so many great devotees become monks, because they're not even, they may not, but that is like the polar opposite of materialistic man-woman relationship. It is the original, and this is like a upside down like reflection.
And that's exploitation versus love.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's read a couple more paragraphs and then.
It's almost 8 o'clock.
Yep, it is. Okay. In his book, Brihad Bhagavatamritam, Srila Sanatana Goswami has given Sambandha Gyan, the knowledge of the relationship between ourselves and the Lord. We have to follow that closely. That means proper adjustment. At first, we shall have some sort of approximate knowledge, and that will be realized more and more. Taking our stand in a particular position, if we look out, we will be able to say, this is here, this is there, this is lower, that is higher. In Krishna consciousness, we must understand Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha means relationship. Where am I and where is everything else in relation to reality and relation to where I'm going? And that's sort of the map. Without a map, It doesn't help to have a map if you don't know where you are on the map.
Yeah, be aware of what it's saying or where to go.
And you have the map and your position within the map.
Yeah, and you can tell that by the symptoms of where you are.
That's true.
Yeah.
What I do not find to be my own, I must not take risk for that. But when I find this is my own, your heart finds its home. Even though it may be a little far, and I must jump there. This is my own. My inner hankering is only searching for that thing. And if I find that is within my reach, I must jump there. It depends on our sincerity and our proper understanding. Finish.
Enjoy.
Like, well, how many?
That was a good lesson.
These are the words I feel about the
Couple pages.
I love the
Just
Chaitanya.
purely. I mean, what blows me away is that someone asks him a question, and he's just like, just speaks that. I just like, how?
Beautiful beyond belief. Okay, page 66 in the songbook. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yaduvaya Namaha
Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Yaduvaya Madhuvaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giriraj Gopinath Madana Mokha Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Radharara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Jaya Jai.
Om Vishnupada Srila Bhakti Rakshaka Sri Gurudev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Om Guru Varga ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Chandra Mahaprabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Ki Jai. Gaur Vimananda.
Hari Om.
Friday evening program.
Jai. We appreciate the association of Vimal Krishna Prabhu,
Jai.
Jai Bhima.
who says such an incredible class. Srila Guru Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
All of the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mission devotees ki Jai.
Jai.
Also Q and Rukmini Didi.
Oh, Rukmini.
Aw.
Jai.
Hari Om.
Okay.
Hari Bol.